But at around 3, I heard the distinct sound of leaves under heavy boots. Definitely not a cat this time. I don't know what made me decide the best course of action was for me, standing all of 5'3" to confront a potential stalker myself. I didn't even put shoes on, but I threw the door open and there was no one in the stairwell. So I ran up the stairs and into the backyard, and standing there was a man in his mid-40s, maybe 6 feet tall and wearing one of those mechanic jumpsuits. He was holding a clunky, outdated digital camera. We stood there for a second, just sort of looking at each other. He seemed confused to see me, but after what felt like a long time, I remembered how to speak, and I said, "What are you doing?" My voice seemed to startle him, and he immediately turned and ran through my backyard towards the red house and into the dark. After that, too, I didn't see any strange flashes of light or hear any crunchy leaf noises or anything. But it definitely really freaks me out to think about just how many nights he could have just been standing there in the dark, watching me. So, I'm officially freaked out and have come to the conclusion that this saga surrounding my dog is no longer just innocent. I lived in the same apartment for 5 years, from 2014 to 2019. Around Christmas of 2017, I left my apartment to find a cute dog collar on my doormat. It had tags on it still and was clearly new. I have a beautiful sweet Great Dane who frequented the apartment dog park with me, so I assumed that one of the people that we always play with got it for her. I kept it and used it, but never did find out who left it. Flash forward to sometime around my March birthday in 2018. A big bag of Sizzler's dog treats, my dog's favourite, were on my porch chair. I knew that I hadn't left them there. I thought again, well, that was really nice, just someone doing the right thing. But I'm sort of crazy protective of my dog, so I actually threw the bag away since I didn't know their origin. Around August 2018, another surprise showed up on the porch, this time a stuffed lamb chop toy, a dog cookie, like you'd get at the pet store, and a small bag of my dog's food. Now, at the time I fed my dog Origin, so even the small bag was really expensive, and I thought that this was super weird. I began telling people at the office and the dog park and asking my neighbours if they'd seen anything. Nothing, and nobody else had any other experiences like it. Again, though, I got a bag of treats around January of 2019. This time I was just fed up, though, so I left a sign on my sliding glass door that said I appreciated the gesture, but to stop leaving gifts, and I put a second camera inside facing the patio as well. And nothing happened after that. Sometime around then, though, I left my dog's favourite stuffed toy dinosaur on my front door mat as we came in from the park because it was covered in mud. I went to get it later to clean it, and it was just gone. I was sure that somebody threw it out since we had people that collected our trash from bins at the front door, and I noticed that they had come by. But me and my dog moved into my fiance's house about 50 minutes away in October of last year. I always thought it was just a weird neighborhood kid or a shy person or an old person from the senior living place across the street or something, and eventually I forgot about it. That is, until about an hour ago. So I came home on my break to eat. I worked third shift, and I let my dog and my fiance's dog out the back, when I noticed that on the stairs to the door, there's the dinosaur toy, still muddy and has the same ripped tail propped up against the glass. I immediately shut the dogs in the house and go and look around, but there's nothing. Keep in mind, I left at 11:50 p.m. and there was no toy. I came home at around 3:45 a.m. and it was there. So in that short middle of the night time frame, someone jumped my 5-foot fence, it locks and was still locked, placed the toy and just left. Not to mention too that they had to have found my new address, which is not listed anywhere, and I didn't leave forwarding addresses with the apartment complex. I put the toy in a trash bag and it's in my garage now. I put a call into the non-emergency police line, and they said that they'd send someone today to take a report, but I can tell you that I'm officially freaked out now. I'm not letting my dog out of my sight. Update. So, I wanted to let everyone know that I have 8 cameras on the way from Amazon that will arrive tomorrow, and I'll set it up as soon as they get here. I also have our indoor Arlo camera that we usually use to check on the dogs when we're gone, facing it from my front window towards the driveway, with the motion detector on for now. I've also informed every neighbor that I have, talked to the police, and I've let all my friends and family know. I also scoured my backyard for any weird treats or footprints, and I didn't find anything. My neighbor actually had some old barbed wire in his shed as well, so he helped me put a strip of it along the inside top of my fence so that if someone reached up and tried to climb over, that they wouldn't see it, but they sure as heck would feel it. I also have a shotgun next to my bed with me, not loaded obviously, but it's the pump kind that makes a very loud, distinct and scary noise. I also checked the toy thoroughly by cutting it open to check for wires or cameras or anything, and I even used a magnet to find any metal in the stuffing, and it was clean. I'm keeping it in the bag in the garage in case anything happens, though. And I guess I just want to thank you guys for your help to try and figure out who this person is and what they could be up to. I'll also continue to update you guys if anything happens. Update. So, some good news, guys. The cameras that I got fully worked. Last night at around 9 p.m., a truck pulled up into my driveway and then slowly backs out and turns around once my new driveway spotlight comes on. It's caught on my new Blink camera, and looking at the video, I actually recognized the truck instantly. It was the maintenance tech guy from my old apartment complex. He had a beat-up black extended cab truck for as long as I lived there, and the tailgate was completely missing and had one white panel on the back where it had been repaired or something. I know that he lived or lives at the complex, so there's probably no reason for the coincidence. I instantly called the detective who I spoke with and told him, and they told me that they would go and speak with him today. Now, I've got to say though that I kind of feel a bit sad about this. This guy was always just super nice to me and my dog. And I knew from conversations with him and the office ladies that he has decreased mental capacity since birth and that he's slow with very little social skills. I don't think that he was trying to be malicious at all, but I'm pretty torn up about it, honestly. I had so many interactions with him over the time that I lived there, and all were so pleasant, and I knew that he had very little social skills. He once told me, in fact, that I was the one and only nice person to him. I sort of know that that's probably true as well, because I heard many residents complain about the retard maintenance guy and how they should get better for what they pay. And he loved my dog, always made it a habit to stop and pet her and whatnot. I told the detective all of this and that he was slow when I called, but I don't know. I just feel very conflicted. What do you guys think? Update. So, the detective just gave me a call, guys. He sent an officer to talk to the guy at the complex. At first he said he didn't know what they were talking about, but then after being showed the video evidence, said that he just turned around in the driveway and had no idea who it was. That he was just driving around. He also denied leaving any gifts ever. The detective said too that he had a clean background and that they couldn't get him on any charges and yada yada yada. I guess that's don't feel as bad after he denied everything. I'm gonna stay vigilant for sure, but I guess at least now he knows that I have cameras and I'm watching. A little bit of backstory first. So I had just finished high school and had recently turned 18 when all of this occurred. I was looking forward to starting university and was going to be moving out of my parents' house into student housing close to the campus. As a result, I started looking for a job closer to my residence. I found one about 5 minutes walk from where I was going to be living, and it was honestly perfect for me. I was to be a barista in a tiny little coffee kiosk in one of the coolest streets in the city. This street was sort of known for prostitution and drugs, but it was also super popular as it hosted some of the most interesting events and also contained some of the nicest thrift stores in the city. What was even more ideal about my new job, though, was the fact that I worked right across the road from my best friend, and her name was Phoebe. At the time, Phoebe was in love with her job. She was actively being given more responsibilities, and she was being promised the world by her employers. Many of these promises turned out to be false at the time, but that's another story. So, during one of her shifts, though, Phoebe was approached by a man who had seemingly become a regular at the place that she was working, and his name was Richard. He told her that if she ever wanted to leave a job, he had just become the manager of a new restaurant a little ways down the road, and Phoebe kindly denied his offer. He approached her several more times with the same offer before she recommended him our other close friend. Her name was Mia. Mia was sort of hesitant to take the position at first because she has a passionate hatred for hospitality and greatly prefers retail, but she did need the extra money at the time, and so she ended up taking the job. The day that Mia was signing her contract too, Phoebe and I both finished work early, around 4, so we told Mia that we would meet her at a new job once we finished and that we would go do something afterwards. Phoebe and I went to the cake shop next door and sat outside at work while we waited for Mia. And when they finished, Richard followed Mia outside to come and say hello to Phoebe. The girls introduced him to me and conversations ensued, and he honestly seemed like a pretty friendly guy, if not a little bit awkward. He was late 30s, early 40s, bird-like in appearance, quite short, balding, larger in size, and he seemed really greasy, if that's the right way to put it. As the conversation continued, though, I began to tease Mia a little bit, as friends do. I saw no harm in it, as she was one of my best friends, and she had made a similar joke at my expense prior to this interaction. But Richard's demeanor suddenly seemed to sort of just switch. He became somewhat catty and defensive of Mia. He retorted back that if I was going to be mean to his staff, that he would bar me from every store on the street that he worked on. This seemed ridiculous, but he claimed to be friends with the security guard that worked on the street. Fortunately, I was actually friends with this man too, and when I asked him about it, he told me that he'd never heard of a Richard before. Richard said these things to me as though he was joking, but he was so persistent about it that I got incredibly uncomfortable and honestly was almost in tears at one point. It was from this interaction too that he nicknamed me Trouble. I also feel it needs to be noted that he didn't scold me or Phoebe at all for the same behavior. Phoebe sensed my discomfort though and told him that we had to leave as we had plans. Flash forward a few weeks though, and Phoebe and I decided to go to see Mia at work again. Richard intrudes our conversation yet again, and again he singles me out from the group, teasing me and only referring to me as Trouble. This time I just sort of play along, as I can tell it isn't going to stop. He asks Mia if she's after another job, as he needs someone to clean his home and lives all the way out where my parents and Mia live. Mia tells him that she can't, as she has too many responsibilities. But I tell him that I might know a few people in the area that might do it, and I give him my phone number. But Richard takes this as a sign that I've agreed to do it, and begins texting me insistently about setting up a meeting. Now, this man is much older than me and lives alone in a rural area. So suddenly my instincts kicked in, and I try to get out of it by telling him that I can't drive. But he says that he can pick me up from the nearest train station. Now, I know that this might sound silly, but I don't want to come across as impolite or have my best friend's boss resent her because of me, so I make the mistake of agreeing. However, I tell him that my sister will be helping me as she's looking for a part-time job and my dad will be dropping me off. I do this in order to have some backup and so that my dad knows my whereabouts. Richard goes on to complain about how I don't trust him and claims that his house is very small and the $100 he's going to pay me won't be enough to split with my sister. I tell him, though, that I just want to provide her with some work experience. And finally he agrees, asking how old she is. My sister is 17. Richard and I finally find a time, though, that I'm not working to schedule a meeting. This meeting is held at his place of work, and I feel a lot more comfortable sitting in the main restaurant, surrounded by people, as I thought that he was going to hold the meeting in an office. We begin talking about the responsibilities of the job. He tells me that it'll be basic things like tidying up, vacuuming, the usual stuff. I agree, and he then goes on to tell me how he'll also be expecting me to do his laundry. I think that this is a little bit odd, as he's only paying a small amount for such a large job. But he assures me that his house is small and that it's not messy, but continuously cleans. It just needs a woman's touch. I nod and ignore the fact that this grown man thinks that just because he's a man, it means that he doesn't need to know how to maintain his own home, which in hindsight is weird, I know. But this is where things start to get a little creepy. So near the end of the meeting, he asks me again how old my sister is, and when I say 17, his face drops. He then starts telling me about how he previously posted this ad on Craigslist, and this 60-year-old woman replied offering to do it in her lingerie. He tells me how he didn't even ask for that in the ad, but she offered and he was put off completely. He then proceeds to tell me that he would be willing to pay more to someone between the ages of 18 to 30 if they're willing to do that, but he would never request that because, well, he's not a pervert. I called him out on this one and tell him then and there that this meeting is done and I have to go and get Phoebe. He asks if he made me uncomfortable, and yes, he did, but I just say no and that I'll get back to it. This strange man, who I've only met 3 times, remember, then attempts to hug me, but I ignore the gesture and awkwardly wave goodbye from less than 3 feet away. I boosted down the street toward Phoebe's work and tell her the whole story. She tells me that I can't do it, and I tell her that I know that, but I don't know how to tell him without risking my own safety or Mia's job. Fortunately, Richard gives me the perfect out, and he texts me later that afternoon telling me that he hopes I'm okay with the cats because, well, he has a small one. And I see this as the perfect opportunity, and lie and tell him that my sister and I are both deathly allergic to cats, and neither of us will be open to doing the job now. Richard accepts this reasoning after a little persuasion, and I think that I'm finally done with it. But unfortunately, that was definitely not the case. Richard proceeded to text me every day, asking if I'm mad at him or if he made me uncomfortable, asking me how my day was and stuff like that. Just behaving like a preteen in a new relationship, basically. The more I ignored him, the more that he texted. I finally blocked him in March of 2019. This escapade had begun 4 or 5 months prior to this. The blocking still didn't stop him, though. Mia informed me that Richard was no longer going to be working there, as he had to go for surgery and we wouldn't have to see him anymore. See, Richard had not only been harassing me, but Mia and Phoebe too, just to a lesser extent. One Saturday morning, while I was working, setting up at around 7:45 in the morning, Richard actually showed up at my work. The divider was down as we were closed, so he came and stood in the doorway, the only exit that I had available to me at the time. He started asking me why I was ignoring him and telling me about his surgery. I told him that he wasn't allowed to stand there as it was a fire exit, but he didn't budge. Fortunately, though, my boss showed up shortly after and told Richard that he was going to phone the security if he didn't move. Recognizing the sheer look of fear on my face as well, my boss was sort of a jerk on most days, but man, was I grateful for him that morning. Now, roughly a month after that experience, I honestly thought that Richard was gone from my life. I was living in my new apartment, Mia was around all the time and loved the job without Richard there. Things were going pretty well for us. One morning, though, after a night of drinking, me and the flatmates became peckish. I decided to order us some greasy food from the delivery app, and lo and behold, it was our delivery driver, other than Richard. I turned to my boyfriend at the time and tell him that he has to go and collect the food. He doesn't understand, but Mia assures him that it's really important. So he agrees and goes out to collect it. Richard is not driving the vehicle that he claims to be driving on the app, and at first we're sort of confused as the number plate is also different. Mia and I watch from his bedroom window, and the interaction takes much longer than expected. He comes back though, and we ask what took him so long. He tells us that Richard apparently refused to give him the food until he could prove that he was my boyfriend. Apparently he recognized my name from the app, and now he knew where I lived, which was definitely a concern. But Mia and I tell my flatmates the story of what happened, and we all agree it's a good idea to go to my RA. The RA reports it to upper management, and they say that they can't really do anything about it, but if he does come in again, to call their security. A few months go by, and there's no more Richard sightings, until I order from the same app again. And yet again, Richard is our driver, also in a different car again. So send my boyfriend to go and collect the food again and report the incident to my RA again, and the food delivery app. I know that I was stupid in not immediately reporting it to campus security, as I had much more proof of the creepy behavior than he had of his innocence, but I was naive and I didn't want my parents to find out at the time, so I just didn't do it. Fortunately, I haven't seen Richard since then, but what do you guys think? Do you think it was just a mere coincidence that he ended up being our delivery driver? Or do you guys think that there's more to this? I went to high school in a small Minnesota town, mostly farmland intersected by wood areas, and of course dozens of small lakes. One side of my neighborhood was bordered by a relatively large marshland that you could access by a slope that wound down to a trail. This trail curved through the marsh into a big patch of woods about 3/4 of a mile away. In the fall and the springtime, after heavy rains, fog would often settle over the marshes. It was so much lower than the surrounding area, and it truly looked like something out of a Stephen King novel, let me tell you. Anyway, after one of these rains, my brother and I, he was probably 13 and I was 16, decided that it would be a great idea to go explore the woods in the fog. Although the sun was setting fast, we knew that we could make it to the woods in about 10 minutes if we left immediately. We grabbed a couple of flashlights, knowing that it was probably going to be dark by the time that we got home, and we headed for the trail. Once we were in the trail and moving, it sort of hit us just how thick the fog was. We had only been walking for a minute or two, but we had absolutely no visibility behind us, and 5 or 10 feet max in front of us. We continued walking for a few more minutes, just sort of messing around about hearing noises and seeing red eyes in the distance the whole time, until we came to a curve in the trail. This particular curve signaled that we were only about 100 yards from the entrance to the woods. And at this point, there's a small lake on the left side of the trail and miles of marshland on the right. It's important to note that we've moved farther and farther away from any houses. Our house was the closest to the trail, and the trail moved far away from our neighborhood, rather than bordering any backyards. But we began walking past the lake, and then we heard a splash. Definitely larger than a fish jumping as well, but we had no idea what else would have been out there to make that noise. So we sort of stopped, waited, and upon hearing nothing else, just continued on our way. We could have been going for more than 15 seconds when we heard cracking and shuffling in the brush up ahead to our left. We stopped dead in our tracks and waited, and then at the end of our eyesight, which could have only been about 10 feet away, a figure stepped out from the brush bordering the lake. The fog was way too thick to make out many details, but it must have been at least 6'4" and very broad-shouldered. As the figure made its way into the middle of the trail, my brother gasped, and then it stopped. Its head shot over and looked right at us and just sort of stared. It felt like an eternity, but it couldn't have been more than a few seconds. And I don't know why, but I felt true terror in that moment, and I've never replicated that feeling again. I began to take a small step backwards, and suddenly the figure took off running into the marshland. And when I say quickly, I mean there's nothing on this planet that can move that quickly. Again, there are no houses or buildings or anything for miles in the direction that it ran as well. But suffice it to say, my brother and I sprinted back to the house faster than we've ever run. I still don't know what, or perhaps even who, I saw that day. But to be honest, I kind of hope that I never do. So some friends and I used to drink in this really old, abandoned, dilapidated farmhouse that was about a half an hour walk out of our hometown. It was a place that we could just drink and chill all night and not have to worry about cops and stuff like that. Although the house itself was a bit dangerous, I'll admit. It was ready to collapse, for sure. We didn't mind. We always sat on the top floor, as it had the least amount of debris and had a nice wide open area where we could all sit in a circle. We'd bring a flashlight, but we'd turn it off once we got up in our little area upstairs, just in case someone happened to drive by and notice something suspicious might be happening. Although, not even once did a car drive by, like ever, on any night that we were there. And if they did, it would have been very noticeable, as it was miles away from any light sources and was dead quiet, other than the crickets chirping. But anyway, one night, I'm pretty sure it was a Saturday, probably around 2 or 3 in the morning or so, a group of 7 or 8 of us, we hear the door open and some chatter. We're like, oh no, and quickly hit our booze, sat as still and quiet as we could, and hoped that they just wouldn't come upstairs. But they did. But this is where it gets really weird. Now, although it was dark with no lights, we could easily see each other across the room. And this Hutterite family, they're sort of like the Amish folk, or basically wear the same style of clothes and live in colonies and farms, that comes walking up the stairs. They were chatting to each other, but it wasn't in English. I think it might have been German maybe, but I really can't say. Except the 2 little girls, I would guess around 6 or 7, they were speaking in English to each other. They came into the open room that we were in and started looking around. We were basically soiling our pants at this point. I mean, there's no way that they wouldn't be able to see us all just sitting there in a circle. But somehow, they didn't. In fact, they sort of looked right at us, but through us, like we didn't even exist. In fact, at one point, one of the little girls was standing right in front of me, and she said excitedly, "This is going to be my bedroom." We were all just sort of sitting there frozen solid, looking at each other like, is this really happening? They continued to kind of just walk around and look at stuff. It seemed like they were checking out a new house that they were going to move into or something. But if you saw the state of this house, then you would know 100% that this was never going to be the case. It was way beyond repair at any stage. But they walked around for like 10 minutes just sort of chatting away, seemingly completely oblivious to us, and again there is just no way that they wouldn't be able to see us. But finally, they walked back down the stairs. We heard the door open and shut, and then silence. No vehicle driving away, nothing, just crickets again. We were all like, what the heck just happened? Where did they even go? A few of us decide to quickly investigate, so we go down the stairs with our trusty flashlight, go outside, and there's just nothing. No vehicle, no tire tracks in the gravel road, no people, just nothing. Mind you, this wasn't even a minute after we heard the door shut, and if they were on foot, they wouldn't have made it that far, and this was flat open prairie grassland. You can see for miles in any direction, so we would have definitely been able to see them without a doubt. Key points too that make this event even stranger is that this house was miles away from any other house. There was no vehicle, and it was like we weren't even there. We looked sketchy, seriously. We had mohawks, tattoos, piercings all over our faces, leather jackets with nails and stuff sticking out of them, etc. There's just no way that you wouldn't see us in the abandoned house at that time of night and just react in fear. Also, it was like 3 in the morning. Why the heck would you walk on foot with young children to come and check out an old dilapidated farmhouse at that time of night without even a flashlight? I really don't know what to think of it, to be honest. I mean, we all saw them, and they were definitely there, and they seemed real. That house is still there as well, but it's basically sideways now from the wind. There's no way anyone in their right mind was going to try and fix it up, let me tell you. And it's been over 20 years, and everyone who was there is still scratching their heads.
Hey friends, before the video starts, I just want to make you aware that after all these years, I finally started a podcast, aptly titled the Let's Read Podcast. With the assistance of Audio Boom, you'll be able to download my podcast for personal usage via iTunes and Spotify. Each episode will be released weekly and consist of all the stories you've heard throughout the week here on YouTube in 1 2 to 3 hour compilation. Check out the link for the podcast in the description and comments below. Your data plan will thank you. Now enjoy the show. I didn't even realize how screwed up this was at the time, but looking back, I feel kind of lucky. I haven't really had many encounters like this in my life. I'm a chubby male, so creepers tend to leave me alone. When I was 19, I lived in Kentucky, pretty far away from my northern Michigan hometown. It was this little town called Pikeville, where there was very little crime. I actually kind of missed it and want to go back, but I digress. My family came down to visit me for my birthday that year, and we agreed to meet up at the Hardys in town that morning after they got into town. I got there a lot earlier than them, me being the type to show up 15 minutes early, and them being the types who show up way late. As I was standing outside waiting, this guy walks up to me. If you've ever lived in a place like this, you know everyone is super friendly, so it didn't strike me as odd when he started talking to me. During our conversation, all kinds of alarm bells should have been going off. Like, after he found out I went to the college, he said he saw me at a party. This isn't possible, as I've never once went to a party. When he found out I'm a gamer nerd, he started about playing D&D all the time. He kept taking sips out of some sort of alcohol bottle. Mind you, it's like 10 a.m. at this point, and kept offering me some. There were a few other things like this. He started talking about how he lost all of his friends because he got into drugs, and I felt a little bad for him. He asked if I wanted to walk around for a bit, and since I knew my family wouldn't be there for a little while, I went. The guy had been talking about how he lost all of his friends due to drugs, and I felt bad for the guy. That coupled with the fact that I hadn't had any encounters like this, the lack of crime kind of disarmed that warning part of my brain. We walked and talked for a little while, maybe 10 minutes, before I realized we were in a shady-looking part of town. I had never even realized there were shady parts of this small town, but here we were. We stopped in front of a house that looked long abandoned with this dark, narrow, sketchy alley next to it. He starts talking about how he knows the two girls that live here and how they like to party and whatnot. He tells me about how DTF they are and asks if I want to meet them. It was at this point that my common sense finally kicks in. I'm in a terrible part of town with a sketchy guy I don't know who was just talking about doing hard drugs, and no one knows I'm here. And now he wants me to go into an obviously abandoned house under the guise of meeting some ladies. I obviously declined his offer and immediately said I needed to get back as my family was probably waiting. He seemed a little upset about this, and then asked if I could help him move a pool table into his van, which was conveniently parked down the alley. I declined this as well. This was when he began to reach into his jacket pocket. Since those bells started going off, I realized just how much this guy looked like he might stab me. This terrified me. At this moment, my stepmom did the only kind of thing she ever did for me. She called to see where I was. I took this as an opportunity to hastily exit. The creep followed me for 3 more blocks. I don't know what exactly this guy wanted, but it was probably just to rob me. Still, that area has a good amount of disappearances and is one of the worst areas in the country for human trafficking, I later found out. I don't know what would have happened had I agreed to help, but I can't help but think of that one scene from Silence of the Lambs where Bill lures a victim into his van. I hope he got the help he needed and is doing better, but I also hope just as much that I never have the misfortune of running into him again. Tonight I was at work. I cleaned a shopping mall, and a very polite goth teen, green hair, black clothes, approached me asking about a potential job. I gave him information on a job center in town and went on my way. About an hour later, I'm walking back a hallway towards the bathrooms that I have to check every hour. The same kid passes me, ducking down a service corridor. People use those all the time here, so I don't think anything of it until a very large pack, about 10 to 12 of redneck teens, comes back the hall together. One boy walks into and searches our men's room. A girl sticks her head into the corridor and says, "No one's there," but it goes all the way through to another door. They are actively hunting the green-haired boy. I walk past the group, thinking to get out of earshot and radio security to deal with it. Rounding a corner, the direction they had come from, I see that the pack had shut the fire doors, effectively closing off the public hallway from sight. I call security, and they arrive at the group of teens, who claim that the goth boy flashed a gun. Cops are called. They find and frisk the goth kid, to find that he has no weapons other than pepper spray. The group of stalkers is sent home for the day, and the boy stays for a few more hours. Nothing came of it, but based on the pack's actions, secluding the hallway and organized hunting, I wonder if we wouldn't have been calling in a body if they'd found that goth teen. This takes place around 10 years ago. I was around age 16. My family owns a business located in a little rural town. Not much happens around here, and it is a fairly quiet and safe place. I still live in the town, and I often leave my house unlocked during the day and leave our keys in our vehicles. The business sat back off the main road pretty far and was pretty secluded and surrounded by trees. Honestly, I always felt a little creeped out being there after dark by myself to begin with. Our office was a modular office trailer, the kind they often rent out to construction sites. When you went into the main door, to the left was a large open room where the office was. Straight ahead was the bathroom, and to the right there was a storage room. One late evening, my mom said she had forgotten something in the office and was going to go get it. I volunteered to go grab it for her. Like I said, the place at night always gave me a weird feeling, so I didn't want her going alone. I drive down to the office and pull into our well-lit parking lot. It was a cool, clear evening with a moderate breeze. I get out my key, unlock the large deadbolt, and open the heavy door. I flipped on the lights and made a sharp left into the main part of the office. I now had my back to the only exit and to the storage room. I started looking through her desk for the item she needed. I heard a creaking noise coming from behind me. I instantly froze in fear. My combination of being jumpy and the place already giving me the creeps sent my mind into overdrive. I tried to rationalize and set my mind at ease. After all, it was windy out and there were tree limbs that could reach the building on that side. I finally gained the courage to turn around and peer into the room. The light from the office flooded into the room and I could see to the black wall. As far as I could tell, nothing was there. I chalked it up as the wind, found what I needed and slowly approached the door. My eyes never leaving that doorway to the storage room. Part of me wanted to look what made the noise, but my instinct was screaming to just let it go. I listened to my instinct, walked out of the door backwards with my eyes never breaking contact with the room. I just had such a bad feeling about it. I reached in through the door, flipped out the lights and locked the deadbolt, got in my car and went home. I never bothered telling anyone about it that night, figuring it was just my imagination getting the best of me. The next day we found the window for the storage room was broke out, and we had actually been robbed. To this day, I truly wonder if whoever was robbing us was hiding in that room while I was there, and what would have happened if I would have investigated. Worse yet, what would have happened if my mother would have gone there alone? June 14th, 2018. This has sort of been an ongoing thing for about a month, but only really escalated to creepy territory tonight. I was almost hesitant to post this here because I truly care about the villain of the story, but it's recently become too much for me to hold in and keep to myself. I'm a dietary aide at a local assisted living facility. If you're not familiar with those, they're sort of the step before nursing homes. Our residents are healthy enough to live relatively independently, and we only assist them in their daily routine. The one that I work at really feels like the opposite of a nursing home. Rather than being cold and clinical, it's warm and almost feels like a lavish hotel. My job as a dietary aide is to assist in preparing food, serving food to the residents, cleaning the kitchen and dining room, etc. Think of it as like being a waiter for the same group of people every day. To give you a little background, I'm a 17-year-old girl who just graduated high school and is pursuing an associate's degree in pre-med at a local college before moving away to university. I've been working at this facility for around a year now, and I've grown to really know pretty much all of my residents. One of these residents is Mary, who is mostly deaf, and who lives there with her 3 sisters. When I first started working there, Mary and I didn't really talk much or anything beyond me bringing her drinks and taking her order. I could hardly understand anything she said anyway. However, I knew that she was lonely due to the communication barrier between her and others, so I attempted to reach out to her a little bit. I would smile, wave at her, ask her how her day was, etc. It wasn't anything I didn't do for my other residents, but it excited her immensely. Mary is a very touchy woman, and by that I mean she likes to touch those she's talking to, pat them, hug them, etc. I'm autistic and I usually jump when touched, but for some reason she never made me uncomfortable. I took this as a good sign, and I allowed her to touch me since I knew it was her way of showing affection, since talking wasn't very easy for her. It started as pats on the back and shoulder, then it was hugs, then full-on embraces. Now she's at the point where she feels the need to kiss me over and over. This was the point when I became a bit uncomfortable with the contact, but only because I was afraid of how it might be perceived. I have short hair and an overall butchy and masculine appearance that makes many residents with memory issues believe that I'm a man, and I'm also openly a lesbian. One of my coworkers had to be physically separated from a resident who was romantically pursuing her, and I was afraid that my interactions with Mary would be seen as romantic or overtly sexual. Just to clear things up, I'm not attracted to Mary, and I'm almost certain she's not attracted to me. She just constantly assures me that she loves me and that I'm really sweet, but she never came off as flirty or anything. After a few weeks of this, Mary had become persistent. When she's done eating, she stands by the kitchen door as I do dishes and simply watches me, waiting for me to come out and talk to her. In really busy times, she waited almost an hour for me to be free, just standing in the doorway and looking in. As I'm serving food and taking orders, she watches me. Coworkers and residents usually find it sweet or funny how she reacts, but she literally won't let me go once she has a hold of me. She's actually a really tiny woman, but she's strangely strong. Even if she wasn't, I can't exactly push one of my residents away. So I'm pretty much forced to deal with the hugs, kisses, and assurances of her love until either I or a coworker can get it through to her that I have to go back to work. Even then, it doesn't always work out since she's half deaf. She usually understands what I'm saying after a while, but whenever a coworker comes to my rescue, Mary becomes strangely hostile towards them, holding me tighter and saying she'd hold me for the rest of her life if she could. Tonight went as usual, with Mary waiting for me and attacking as soon as I stepped out of the kitchen. One of the CNAs told her that I had to get back to work, and Mary gave her literally the dirtiest, meanest look I had ever seen her give, and whispered to me that she would be back later. As a coworker and I were closing the kitchen, Mary showed up again, just like she had promised. My coworker was getting the mop water ready in the back of the kitchen, and I stepped out to clean the counter in the dining room. She latched on to me.
No one can bother us now,
she said, and I heard it pretty clearly.
She didn't like it.
She continued, most likely talking about the CNA that interrupted her. Mary embraced me, kissing me over and over, and told me how much she loved me, and how she would love me for the rest of her life. After about 5 minutes, I was determined to get back to work, but she just hugged me tighter. Eventually, someone was trying to get a luggage cart to the dining room, so I tried to break it off to let them through, but Mary just dragged me to the other side to let them through without letting me go. It was nearly 10 more minutes until I could convince her to let me go. According to the CNAs, all Mary talks about is me. Even though I'm off, and Mary knows I'm off, she waits for me, as though I might show up somehow. I truly do love and care about Mary, and I often wonder what made her latch on to me. I don't know if I remind her of someone from the past, or if she just happens to really like me, but it's getting to the point where her life revolves around me, and she's willing to fight against anyone who gets in the way of that. It would be really sweet and cute if she just happened to like me, but she can't stand to be away from me. What really scares me is how she retaliates against everyone in order to be with me. My mom's theory is that Mary knows her life is coming to an end, and she's at least 85 to 90, and finds some sort of comfort in me. Then I thought about the theory about Mary, how she might think of a man, and it turns out that was the case. One of the administrators at work told me to avoid Mary until they could talk to her about the situation, and as I did dishes tonight, we had the kitchen doors closed so Mary couldn't get to me. She started banging on the door, staring in at me. When a CNA told her that she needed to leave me alone and let me do my work, Mary then said, "I want him." And the CNAs tried to explain to her that I was not only a girl, but also a minor. And this just sent Mary into a frenzy, as she claimed that they were lying, and that she wanted to be with a man. She started making threats, both legal and physical, and eventually it was decided that corporate would be brought into it, and decided that the best option would be kicking her out, since she technically sexually harassed a minor. I was told this by one of my coworkers who was helping to guard the door, I was stunned, horrified, and a lot of other things I can't really describe. This whole time, all of the kissing, touching, holding, it was all sexual. All the time she invited me to her room, it wasn't just to hang out with me, it was to do things with me. The woman I had thought of as a sort of grandma-esque figure was romantically obsessed with me, and I can't help but feel violated. Even though she wasn't allowed to come near me, she sat by the dining room sobbing, feeling as though her only love was taken from her. It's sort of a difficult situation since I truly do love her, but not the way that she loves me. I know now that she's not all there in the head, and I wish that I would have known this before reluctantly allowing her to kiss me on the mouth and touch me on the chest and thigh. I just thought this was her strange way of expressing herself through touch, but it seems that was simply too optimistic. So my friends Carol, Xander, Rhea, and Vanessa and I all decided to go to a traffic light party that was held in my high school. We all met at Vanessa's to drink beforehand and have fun in case the party was whack. Thereafter, we went to the high school. We arrived right at the start, and none of our other friends were there. We then decided to go into a back room where the teachers had laid out chips and soda for students who weren't planning on drinking. We sat and relaxed, and our other friends slowly arrived. For some background information, Carol had a really creepy admirer. He was in Maria's class and was a bit older than us. His name was Jacob. Jacob was known for being a huge pothead and not being afraid to experiment with other substances. He was constantly seen being slow and weird during school time, which I assume was him being high or something. He had met Carol at a previous party and fell head over heels for her, even though they only spoke for a minute at that party. After the party, he had texted her every day, saying how Carol had a heart of gold, and that she was the light of his life. This obviously creeped her out, and she confronted him and said that the feelings were not returned since they had only met each other once. This angered Jacob, and he decided to be pretty aggressive about it. Ever since that happened, Carol had received death stares from Jacob during school time. But fast forward to the traffic light party. After being in the back room for a while, we decided to go out to the dance floor. We sadly lose Vanessa in the crowds, so it's just me, Xander, Carol, and Maria dancing. I then spot Jacob circling us. He clearly was under the influence, and I warned Carol and the others. We quickly went outside in an enclosed area for smokers. Lots of people were there, and we had some combos with a few peeps we knew. I then spot Jacob on the other side of the enclosed area, and he had a friend with him. I then told Carol that we had to go again, and we decided to take cover in the teacher's back room. We sat and relaxed, but guess who showed up? Jacob and his friend. They sat at a table behind us, and Carol got really scared. Jacob kept repeatedly pointing out Carol for his friend. We then decided to go again, and this time we went for the dance floor. We stayed there for 30 minutes, and I saw Jacob stalking us through the crowds multiple times and giving me death stares constantly. I have never, ever seen anyone that angry, and I have never spoken a word to the guy. He literally gave me the, if I get my hands on you, I'll break you in half stare. I was so scared that I didn't want to turn my back on him in fear of what he would do. We go up to the bar and order some drinks, and I spot Jacob and his friend again. Jacob is growing increasingly aggressive and tries to run towards us, but his friend stops him from coming over. I then recognized Jacob's friend from one of my classes from middle school. At this point, he comes close enough to Xander and me and tries to lunge out after us. At this point, we had had enough and we make a run for it. My heart was beating like crazy. I had never been in any direct danger before that, and I was incredibly scared. We ran over to the security guards and told them everything. They confronted Jacob, and he almost crapped his pants. We then went back to the teacher's back room and calmed down. I then saw Jacob's friend that I used to go to school with. I confronted him, and he said that Jacob was indeed under the influence, and it was not alcohol. He agreed that Jacob's behavior was unacceptable and apologized to us on behalf of him. I have not seen Jacob since then, and heard from Maria that he doesn't show up for school anymore. To preface and give some context, I'm a 21-year-old male who makes a habit of taking road trips across the U.S., and I'm not one who is inexperienced when it comes to hiking or dangerous situations. I've had people stalk my camp in Kansas and stare over my fire in Utah with a shotgun. Point being, I've had weird experiences, but none that have ever chilled me like this one. This just happened earlier today, and I want to get it out while the image is still sharp in my mind. I was out hiking a trail in southern Indiana with a female friend of mine. It was around 90 degrees and muggy as all get out. The trail specifically is the Three Lakes Trail, and is a little over 10 miles long and is circular, so nearly impossible to get lost. We'd arrived early in the morning, so there was almost no one in the park at all, save for a few parked vehicles. We had been hiking the trail for about 3 hours and not seen a soul. Usually I pay attention to my surroundings a bit more and am cautious of people just because of life experiences and hearing stories like this, but with good conversations and laughs, I was distracted. My friend and I are walking downhill towards a sharp left turn when, out of seemingly nowhere, a woman steps around the bend and starts hiking up the hill towards us with her head down. She was average height, but much more muscular than a typical woman. She is wearing a sports bra, short shorts, and a backpack, which left most of her body exposed. Her tattoos are what first caught my eye. All across her body are these weird shapes and symbols that didn't make much sense. I didn't see anything that resembled a picture or English words. As she came within about 10 feet of us, she looked up, and we made eye contact. That is when everything in me just froze up. Her face had similar symbols tattooed all over and in strings all over her face. Her eyes, though, are what I'll remember for a long time. They were just black sockets, and in the shade of the dense canopy, I couldn't make out much about what it actually was. With how humid it was that day, I don't believe that the dark sockets were makeup, so I assume that all around her eyes were tattooed solid black. On top of this, she must have had color contacts in her eyes, as there was no white at all. With every horror and cult scenario I've ever heard running through my mind, and her face chilling me to the soul, I blurted out, "Good day for a hike." She just looks at me with this empty stare, holds eye contact, and walks by us. I have never been so shaken up from running into someone out on the trail before, and hope never to see something like that again. This happened over 10 years ago. My brother was 6 years old at the time. We lived in an area where the summers were nice and mild, so we'd always play outside in our front yards as kids. You know, doing little kid things like melting down action figures or turning over rocks or following ants, etc. Very suburban stuff. On this day, my brother was probably doing something like that. My mother was inside her house working on paying the bills. It was probably 4 or 5 in the evening, just a typical slow-moving summer day. My brother tells me that he was minding his own business when a dark blue, low-rising car suddenly flashed down the street. Now, keep in mind, we had neighbors who lived next door to us who had 2 teenage sons. The sons had a similar colored and styled car, and they liked to speed home, so my brother initially thought nothing of this and went back to his little kid routine. Suddenly, though, someone in the car rolled down the window and called out, "Hey!" to my brother. My brother jerked his head up and realized this was not our neighbor's car. The man driving the car had close-cropped hair, so blonde it was almost white, and a reddish, ruddy complexion. My brother put his age at 25 or younger. In the passenger seat, my brother noted that the accompanying man was either Hispanic or native, dark-complected and young as well. The car quickly swerved and parked next to our neighbor's house. In a matter of seconds, the Hispanic man bolted from the passenger side door and lunged for my brother. Thankfully, my brother's animal panic kicked in and adrenaline forced him up, and he ran fast into the house, crying and screaming. My mom instantly ran outside, knowing what had happened. She had a protective rage all mothers know acutely. She saw that the car had now sped away and watched as the exhaust trailed behind. She got a glimpse of the drivers and the car as well, but sadly could not get the license plate. My mother called the police to report the presumed abduction attempt. My family is still angry about this to this day, But the police took their sweet time. They came to our house an hour later, took down the information my mother and brother gave them, and pretty much shrugged. They said there was nothing they could do and didn't seem too concerned. My mom argued with them, but they just took down her information. I don't think they filed a report. I don't know what exactly these men wanted, but I have grim ideas. We live in a smaller town that is close to a bigger city. It's very possible that they scouted my brother and saw him as a target for human trafficking, or who knows what. I shudder to think what could have happened if the timing had just been a little bit different. If my brother had not had the agility to run inside, if his legs had turned to jello instead, or if our house door had been locked, or my mother not home. These two men cost me and my brother some childhood innocence, and we no longer could play outside in our carefree way. It was 2015. I was in my second year of university, and to give context, I lived at home and simply drove to class since the university was only 15 minutes from my house. I lived in a condo that was pretty upscale, and it was situated right at an intersection, so when you exit the parking garage, you'd have to wait at a signal. I had quite an expensive car that my parents had bought me, and it often stuck out in the crowd. My city is quite safe, though, so I never felt threatened and often drove with my window down. It was fall, so everything was quite peaceful and chill. One morning, I was coming out to the parking garage and waiting at the signal to turn left when a Jaguar drove up beside me. I didn't think anything of it and continued to listen to my music when I see him roll down his window and gesture for me to look at him. Thinking he needed directions or wanted to get in my lane, I turned the volume down and he immediately said, "You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen." Flattered, but not interested because I had a boyfriend and I know I'm not beautiful. I said thanks awkwardly. Before university, I had been to an all-girls private school in other countries, so I had really little experience with guys flirting or compliments like that from strangers. He then insisted that I give him my number and that we could go out for coffee sometime. I said no thanks, that I had a boyfriend, but thanks for the compliment. He insisted that I give him his number. People on the sidewalk were now looking because he was yelling quite loudly through his car to mine, wishing the signal would open. I didn't know what to do. So as an inexperienced young woman who watched way too much TV, I decided to just give him a fake number. Bad idea. He took out his phone, and thank God the signal opened, so I booked it out of there. I'm guessing he turned right. When I got to university, I totally texted all my friends about it, and we laughed at how he would call the number and find out it wasn't mine. I wish that was the end of it, but it wasn't. A few days later was the weekend, and two of my friends and I decided to go watch a movie at the theater across the street. If anyone knows the Mississauga downtown area, they know that everything is in the same area. The theater, the mall, the community center, everything. So we were sitting in the concessions area waiting for them to open up our theater to enter, and this guy walks up to me. He's all like, "Oh hey, I tried calling you, but I think I got a wrong number because it kept going to some old lady's number." I'm just shocked at this point, but don't think much of it because we're in my neighborhood and it's totally possible to run into him. I once again iterate that I have a boyfriend and that I wasn't interested. My friends get all protective too and probably see my body language, so one of them steps up and says, "Hey buddy, she's not interested. Her boyfriend's coming any minute now and you don't want to meet him." He mumbled something that I couldn't hear and just says that he'll see me later. At this point, I'm a little creeped out. For the next few days, I see him every morning at the signal. Somehow he knows my timings and gets lucky enough to be right beside me every time. I started driving with my windows up at this point and have my sunglasses on every day so he doesn't see my expression. He horns, he rolls his windows down. One day he got really close to the side of my car to yell something closer. I try my best to ignore him. However, I can't really do much about it because he's technically not done anything illegal. Here's another problem. I know he lives near me, but the problem is that my parking garage is shared by my building and another building, so I don't know which one he could live in. I can't report him to the building security. They're pretty useless and don't care. It's getting on my nerves, but I don't know what to do. The final straw was when I was in my university library trying to get books for an essay. I'm in the quiet zone working near the aisle when I noticed this guy looking at me from the sofa area. I'm not very good with my far sight and just thought the person was spaced out like many others in the library. I was curious why this person wouldn't look away after a while, so I asked the guy beside me in the individual study desk area to take a picture of me. Since the stare was in the shot, I was able to zoom in and take a better look. The student complied and I zoomed in. It was him. This guy, he's like at least 28 to 34. He looks nothing like a student, no bag or anything near him, so there's no way he's there for freaking books. Coincidences don't happen this often. At this point, I'm freaked, so I go to the front desk with books and I ask to check out. I tell the girl at the desk of what's happening. She graciously arranged for the senior librarian, a 6-foot-tall man, to escort me to my car. I'm paranoid the whole car ride home. How did he find me? My university is close, about 15 minutes away, but not that close. It involves quite a few turns, and he really didn't look like a student. After like 5 to 6 more days of signal BS, I get tired and tell my boyfriend and my parents about it. My parents freak out. They live in another country as expats, so it's not like I could leave my home either. My parents and boyfriend are all on a conference call with me, so they're discussing how this guy is possibly following me. Then my boyfriend suggests that maybe it's because of my car. I've only personally seen 1 to 2 of them in my city. My car color was rose gold, so literally anyone could spot me. It wouldn't be that hard for him to follow the only rose gold car in the city. They all come up with the idea of my boyfriend switching cars with me for the next few weeks. I was also to leave for my class 2 hours before my normal schedule to throw him off and tint my boyfriend's car so that the creep doesn't spot me in the new car. My boyfriend also gets my own car tinted. The tints for both cars are illegal by Ontario standards, but at this point, we'd rather pay fines than get followed by the creep. This plan works. I no longer see him, and I really do think he was following my car around. Maybe he even go to a local hangout spots and check the parking lots to see if he could spot my car. Either way, for the next few weeks, it all works out and everything's fine. Then one day, while I'm heading to the gym, I get a call from my boyfriend that the creep is following him in my car. My car is tinted at this point, so the creep doesn't know it's my boyfriend in there, not me. He says that he's calling the cops and to use our Find My Friend feature to keep an eye on where he's heading just in case something happens. I'm legit worried at this point. After a few hours, I hear back. So after my boyfriend called the police, the dispatch said that the cops wanted him to drive to the mall parking. There's a police station at this mall, and the cop could come out to his car in plain clothing to ward off suspicion. The creep was of course following my boyfriend in my car, and the cop affirmed this, approached the creep and apprehended him. He threatened him with stalking, took down his info and gave him a serious warning. My boyfriend had gotten out of the car by then, and the creep apparently stared daggers at him the whole time. This creep was never able to find me again, and my parents in the meanwhile had worked to get me moved to a new home outside of downtown, in a more affluent neighborhood where I wouldn't stick out too much. I've also changed my license plate. Still have tint, but also changed my car color so it's more natural. Now if I rarely ever go to the downtown Mississauga area, I always have to watch behind my back. When I was 17, I moved to a college 2 hours away from home and took residence in the dorms on campus. The dorms were not run through the school, but through a management company. There were a lot of safety problems in the dorms as a result of this. Assaults, ODs, drugs, shootings right outside. I'm a 100-pound female, so I always watched out for serious situations around me. Everything was great. I had some awful roommates, but I was mostly left alone. One day in September, I was leaving for class early in the morning when I spotted a condom taped to my name tag on the door. It had a note that said, "Call me, XOXO," with some random phone number. I told the RAs and nothing came of it. I just thought it was some random prank pulled by one of the guys on the floor. Things went south with my roommates, mostly because of my night terrors, scaring them, even though I warned them before we even agreed to be roommates. So I was moved into a 2-bedroom dorm with my new roommate, Jay. We each had our own room. After a week of living there, I started noticing that things were appearing in the living room while we were sleeping. I asked Jay about it, and she vehemently denied it was her. One day we noticed that the lock on the front door did not lock properly. If you pulled on the lock and twisted the handle at the same time, the door would come open. Around the same time, I started to get Snapchats of inappropriate things, vague threats and offers for great sex. I would get ones that would say things like, "You look great today with that specific article of clothing I was wearing." I filed a report to the dorms to get the lock fixed, but it took 4 months, 8 complaints, threat of legal action, and my friend D yelling at them to get any action. We got our door fixed, but the present still appeared outside of the door with notes for me. I was still receiving Snapchats, but I moved out of the dorms into an apartment with my then boyfriend. The Snapchats continued, and I started getting calls at my work. I worked from the dean's office of my college, and I was in charge of answering phones. Every day I would get 3 or more calls from randomly generated numbers. Discovered it was through apps like Viber and Skype after I reported it to the police and they investigated. I would answer the phone. "CLAS, Dean's office, how may I help you?" I would hear heavy breathing for a few seconds, and then they would hang up. I thought it was just some 12-year-old pranking our office until my coworker got a call. She answered with her name, and the person on the line asked if they could speak with me. Thinking it was one of the deans that I had been working with, she forwarded it to my phone. I answered, and I received the same heavy breathing and hung up. I reported it to my boss, and she did nothing. One of the deans overheard the conversation and reported it to Title IX. Oh boy, talking to them was a mistake. After meeting with them, the threats started getting worse, and this person found me in my new apartment. One day in December, I was dog-sitting 2 wonderful dogs who hated other dogs and would bark at them on sight. It was around 11 p.m., and I decided to take them out before bed. We get outside. To the right of me is a bunch of thick trees that are hard to see through. I start to take the girls to the grass on the left. They start growling and barking at something in the trees. Thinking it's another dog, I try to pull them away, but they will not budge. I glance over, and out of the trees comes a tall man. But weird thing is, he's wearing a Michael Myers-like mask. He starts rushing towards me. The dogs get between me and him, and he stops. I run up the stairs behind me into the apartment as he is disappearing into the trees again. Stupidly, I don't call the police, but I see him one more time before I move to my new apartment. Things are quiet for a while. My boyfriend and I break up, and I spend the first few days in the new apartment alone. Come to find out that the window that can be accessed from the ground doesn't lock. One morning I wake up, everything seems normal. I check the mirror to do my hair for work. I have a bald spot. My head was shaved in the middle of the night. I find my hair tied up in knots in an envelope. I immediately call the police. They do an investigation. Find the window was broken, but couldn't find anything to figure out who it was that came in my apartment. They asked me to compile a list of everything that was missing, and the only thing gone other than my hair was 3 pairs of dirty underwear. I have photos of the hair and a bald spot if anyone is interested. An investigation finds no one. I have since moved. I no longer answer phone calls at work, and I keep bear spray next to my bed at all times. I moved to V-Town around the time I turned 13. My father was in the military, and we quickly outgrew base housing, which led me and my mother to buy a duplex in V-Town. It was a small town, dusty and run down, but with some charm left over still. Our house was on Main Street, and behind it sat a creek that ran under a bridge into a dam. After a month or so of living in V-Town, I realized that while this town functioned normally on the surface, underneath it was buzzing with heavy and dark air, too thick for me to breathe. We lived in V-Town for 4 years, and while I did have some good times, I can only recall being miserable and scared most of the time. I still have nightmares of being locked in my old room, not being able to breathe or speak, trying desperately to hide from the invisible. My family and I refer to these years we spent in that house as the forgotten years. We all have trouble remembering our time as a whole, but we can remember some bits and pieces. Sometimes we'll sit and compare stories, remembering but still trying to forget. I wish I could put my experiences in chronological order, but living in that house seemed like a timeless loop. These are some events that I can vividly recall. My father and siblings had gone to visit a family member. So Mom and I were vegging out on late-night TV after giving the house a deep cleaning. We both heard a loud crash from upstairs and immediately grabbed a plastic lightsaber and pre-dialed 911. We went to investigate my brother's room and found a large toy across the room, clearly no longer in the toy chest that we had placed it in earlier that evening. That was one of many loud crashes and instances of things being thrown. My little brother Danny hated his room. It was located in the attic, across the landing from my bedroom. My brother spent most nights at that house sleeping in my bed. My other two siblings spent several nights a week curled up in bed with Danny and I as well. This went on for most of the time we lived in B-Town. Danny would complain that something was scratching under his bed and at the wall space above his head. One night he came into my room, tears streaming down his face and bloody scratches swelling on his upper back. He regularly chewed his nails down to the quick. There was no explanation. There was never an explanation. I also experienced the scratching under my bed on the rare nights that I slept in my room alone. I would hear voices, see wretched faces drifting around my head, and my bed would shake. Those nights were the worst. I would have concluded that I was losing my mind if I was the only one seeing and feeling these things. I often had a little boy visit me outside the door of my room. He would sit out the cracked door and watch my siblings and I sleep. My sister and I saw him once when both of our little brothers were sleeping soundly on the floor next to my bed. I remember crying because I felt like I needed to protect that little boy from the evil in our house. My whole family refused to enter the unfinished basement due to the growling noise that floated around your head and followed you back up the stairs. My youngest brother Elliot would see men in top hats standing outside our shed in the backyard. We later found out that in the past it had been utilized as an ice house. It was built by the town milkman who had also built our home. The milkman would cut giant cubes of ice from the creek behind our house and pack the small building with ice, sawdust, and hay. It was the town's source of ice for the warmer months. It was revealed to us by a local history buff that the small crawl space we played in underneath the ice house was where the town people had stored their deceased in winter, until the ground was soft enough to dig a grave in. We had several neighbors end their life in the years we spent in B-Town. The whole town felt like it had a heavy cloud of negative energy, and to me it felt like it all stemmed from the dam, 300 feet from our house. I remember sitting on the edge of the dam and staring at the vicious, black, frothy water, trying to decide if it was worth slipping over the edge into, like several residents of B-Town had done before me. My father retired from the military when I was 17. We quickly relocated to upstate New York, and the V-Town house was on the market for 6 months. It ended up getting foreclosed on, like many of the historical but rundown houses that filled our town. A month after the house had been foreclosed on, I drove back to V-Town to visit a few friends. We came up with the terrible idea of spending the night in that house and try and capture something. One of the glass panels on the front door had been replaced with plastic, and I easily popped the panel out to unlock the front door and break in. Including myself, there were 4 of us. We camped out in my bedroom and set up a simple voice recorder. It was as if the house was rebelling against our presence. We heard dishes breaking, stomping up and down the multiple staircases, and growling in the abandoned house. I felt like I held my breath the entire time we were there. When we heard laughing and knocking, we decided we had had enough. It was time to get out of there. We packed our sleeping bags back up and fled the house. We were there for a total of 5 hours. I'm not sure what happened to the voice recorder after that night. Sometimes I wish I could remember every creepy thing that occurred in that house, because it's odd to have chunks missing from my life like that. But honestly, I'm glad I don't. Dealing with the trauma that I incurred helped me discover that I am an empath who is very sensitive to the paranormal, more specifically to energy imprints. I still do have experiences anywhere I live, as does my family, but nothing will ever compare to the constant feelings of horror and dread we had in the V-Town house. This happened about 2 years ago. I've been a full believer since then. Up until that point, I've always liked the idea of the supernatural. I enjoy horror movies and late-night Wikipedia rabbit holes, but it was never anything I took very seriously. So like I said, about 2 years ago, my grandma and I drove up to Weatherford, Texas for my aunt's baby shower one weekend. I was excited because we were staying in this really historic bed and breakfast that was this gorgeous Victorian house, and those are always my favorite. The baby shower came and went, and Grandma and I were winding down for the night in our room. I was leafing through one of the bedside pamphlets that spoke of the history of the building and some of the hauntings it was rumored to have. It was mildly entertaining, but I didn't take it too seriously. This really sounded like any other haunting that older hotels boast about. I fell asleep, and I soon began to dream. And in my dream, I wake up in the same bed and have this urge to walk out into the hallway in front of the stair landing. The stairs themselves of this place are these big old wooden carvings with stained glass in the windows. In my dream, there's a woman standing in a white dress on these stairs with the colored reflections of the stained glass on her. She looked ethereal almost, but more than anything I remember suddenly being overcome with this overwhelming sadness, just pure despair and melancholy. Suddenly, I wake up in my bed and I've been crying pressure. As soon as I become fully awake and pull my foot, it disappears. I'm a little freaked out, but I eventually drift back off to sleep and have normal dreams. The next morning, I'm waking up when my grandma starts talking about her night. She starts telling me about how she had a dream with a woman, and she just felt so overcome with this sorrow that she thought was never going to end. And as she came to from the dream, she felt someone pulling on her big toe under the sheet. And as she became fully awake, it disappeared. My grandma just about had a heart attack when I told her almost the same thing happened to me. A couple of years ago, I was in my old house in Minnesota, watching TV after my whole family had gone to bed. I finally got tired and decided to go to bed as well, but since I was the last one up, I had to put our yellow lab, Chili, to bed before I went upstairs. Her nightly routine was to go outside and go potty, then bark at the front door when she was ready to come in. After someone lets her in, she runs around the house trying to find her Kong and brings it to her cookie dish in the kitchen, where it gets filled and given back to her, and she takes it to her pillow in the family room. Before I go on, I'm going to have to explain the layout of the house. The kitchen and living room weren't separated at all. It was just a big space with the TV on one end and the refrigerator on the other. Chili's cookie dish was in the kitchen, and her bed was in the living room. Then from the middle of the two spaces, there were 3 hallways. The one on the left went through the dining room, the one in the middle went to the front door, and the one on the right went through the family room, separate from the living room. There were no doors or anything, so from the kitchen you could go through any of the halls, and from the front door you could go down any hall. So basically, all routes led either to the front door or the kitchen and living area. Anyway, I got off the couch and went down the center hallway to let Chili out. She ran outside, and I wandered back into the living room to watch TV a while I waited for her to do her business. I was watching Friends, and right before Chili barked, I saw Rachel drop the cheesecake that she and Chandler stole. I turned around and let Chili in, and she ran down the family room hallway to get her Kong. I closed and locked the front door. Then I went down the main hallway and was waiting for her at a cookie dish, watching the exit to the hallway she had gone down, but I didn't see her come out. Just when I was about to call her to hurry along, I heard Rachel cry out on the TV. I looked up, and she had just dropped the cheesecake. Then I heard Chili bark outside the front door. Confused, I walked back up to the front door and looked out the windows on the side, and there was Chili sitting on the porch. I freaked out a little and thought that I had let some random dog in earlier that was now just somewhere in my house. But I looked in the family room and didn't see anything. Weird, but whatever. Maybe I was just tired. I unlocked the door and let Chili in again. Again, I went over to her cookie bowl in the kitchen and waited. Again, she never came out. And then I looked up at the TV, and you guessed it. Rachel dropped the cheesecake, and Chili barked. I was starting to feel really uncomfortable, so I turned off the TV before I went to let Chili in again. This time I made her stay with me while I locked the door. Then I went with her to find her Kong. Filled it up, and she took it to her pillow, and I went to bed, thoroughly freaked out. A few months later, I was telling my family the story for the first time while we were sitting around a campfire. After I finished, my dad looked over my shoulder and said, "Huh?" I turned around, and Chili was laying right behind my chair, but my dad had just locked her in her kennel by the tent. before I started telling the story.